It's one of those questions that it just sticks with you. Why do good people do bad things? We see it throughout history, and sometimes, let's be honest, we see it in our own lives. So today, drawing from the work of social psychologist Professor Dr. Hasan Kaplan, we're going to dig into the powerful, often invisible forces that can push perfectly ordinary people toward terrible choices.
So let's just get right to it. Are you capable of doing something truly awful? Is that line between good and evil a solid brick wall? Or is it maybe more like a flimsy curtain that any one of us could push through if the conditions were just right? That's what we're here to figure out.
Okay, so to even begin to tackle a question that big, we actually have to start small. I mean, really small. Let's zoom in on a moment of everyday compromise, something I guarantee you've seen before.
All right, picture this. You're stuck in a miserable traffic jam, bumper to bumper. You're doing the right thing, right? You're waiting in line, maybe not patiently, I get it, you're frustrated, but you're waiting because, hey, that's how it's supposed to work. But then, you see it, out of the corner of your eye. One car, then another one, zips past everyone in the emergency lane. They're breaking the rules. And you got to admit, it's working for them. They're getting ahead.
And you know what happens next, right? It's like a domino effect. A couple more cars see them get away with it, and boom, they go too. And before you know it, that empty emergency lane isn't so empty anymore. It's basically a new, unofficial traffic lane. The exception has become the rule.
And right there, that's the critical moment. That little voice in your head, the one that knows it's wrong, it starts getting really, really quiet. And a much louder voice takes over, saying, hey, look, everyone is doing it now. Why should I be the only sucker waiting here? Your personal compass starts to spin, pulled off course by the group.
So that traffic jam, it's not just about impatience. It's actually a perfect little laboratory for some really powerful psychological forces. So let's zoom out from the highway and get into the science behind what's really going on here.
First up is a big one: obedience to authority. Decades of research have shown pretty convincingly that we humans have this deep-seated wiring to follow orders, even morally questionable ones, as long as they come from someone we think is in charge.
And second, and this is exactly what we saw on the highway, is group pressure. This is that incredibly strong, almost magnetic pull to just go with the flow, to not be the odd one out. When a bunch of people start acting a certain way, it almost creates its own new reality. And standing against that, it is really, really hard to do.
And listen, this isn't just a theory. These ideas have been tested in some pretty famous and frankly disturbing experiments. In the Milgram experiment, normal people, just like us, were willing to deliver what they thought were lethal electric shocks to a stranger just because a guy in a lab coat told them to. Then you have Zimbardo's Stanford prison experiment, where regular college students, when given the role of guards, became cruel and abusive almost overnight.
And here is the absolute key takeaway. The people in these studies, they weren't hand-picked monsters. They were just people. They were students, teachers, neighbors. The shocking conclusion wasn't about their bad character. It was about the overwhelming power of the situation they were put in.
Okay, so we can see how a situation can make us bend the rules in traffic or in a psych lab, but how does this scale up? How does this simple human tendency build into something far, far more sinister? Let's follow that path.
And this is where it gets really uncomfortable, isn't it? How on earth can we draw a line from cheating in traffic to some of the greatest atrocities in human history? The connection feels impossible, but psychologically, it's a terrifyingly straight line.
And this brings us to the core insight from Professor Kaplan. Evil doesn't just show up one day, fully formed. It's not a big, dramatic reveal. It's a process. It's a slow, quiet erosion of character that begins with one tiny, seemingly insignificant compromise.
Think about how this works, step by step. It starts with one small step over the line. Then you justify it to yourself. It's no big deal. I was just following orders. That justification then resets your moral compass. It creates a new, lower baseline. And that makes the next compromise, the next step down, that much easier to take. And that right there is the slippery slope.
Now, I know this all sounds pretty bleak, but understanding this mechanism isn't about feeling hopeless. It's actually the opposite.
It's about empowerment, because once you can see the trap, you can start to learn how to avoid it.
So what's our most powerful defense? What's our shield? It's actually stunningly simple. Awareness. Just knowing these forces are out there. Just accepting that they are real, they are powerful, and yes, that they can absolutely affect you. Just that knowledge alone is the first and most important step to building your resistance.
So let's do a quick mental checklist of the things we need to keep on our radar. We need to watch out for that blind obedience to authority. We have to fight that powerful urge to just go along with the crowd. We need to remember how much a situation or a social role can change us. We have to be deeply skeptical of any ideology that justifies hurting others for some greater good. And above all, we have to be vigilant for that very first, small step down the slippery slope.
You know, the point of all this isn't to judge people from the past, or even the person who cut you off in traffic this morning. It's really about fostering a sense of humility. It's about looking in the mirror and recognizing that we all share these same vulnerabilities. And because we're all in the same boat, we all have a shared responsibility to stay awake and aware of them. Which leaves us with one final crucial question. It's not enough to just know these things exist. The real challenge is, what do we do with this knowledge? How do we actively practice questioning authority, resisting the herd, and holding tight to our own moral compass when all the currents are pulling us in another direction? That is the real work that we all have to do.